Everybody, thanks for watching. Just a quick reminder that the Never Pay Again sale is still available. It'll be up until Monday. Make sure you guys take advantage. There will be two new DVDs coming up this week on Flat Earth and on 2023. We know what's happening with this year. I talked about this in 2022 video, but it's a lot coming up this year. So we're going to get into that and just get into, things that I feel like is going to be happening that you guys are already seeing, and where a lot of this stuff is heading with the war and everything like that. So make sure you guys take advantage of the sale. So those videos will be included along with all of the videos that's been up. Also, yeah, a lot of people have been asking, where I've been and everything like that. If you missed the last video, talked about hospital. I was in the hospital for heart failure. Had to get a whole operation on my heart or what have you to make sure everything was fine. And I'm good to go. I've been taking my meds and switched up my entire diet. I'm down 10 pounds since I left the hospital. And it's just a process. But during this time, I've been just working and putting together things, and I have a lot of videos and content coming up that I'm going to be putting out on Merkaba Academy and here on YouTube as well. So make sure you guys stay up to date. Also, a lot of you guys hit me up about books, and books are still going out. So again, thanks for your patience on that. It's a lot of people still ordering books, but the books are going out. A lot of people still been waiting for books. They're on the way. Been saying it for a long time, but it's been a process that's been held up by many different things, but they're on the way. You'll get your book. Definitely will. And I appreciate the patience on that. So want to get into this video. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, talked about, what happened with Kevin Hart and the whole Egypt thing. This is not the first time this has happened with Egypt and people being canceled for saying things. And, Egypt is real sensitive on that history and what's happening over there. So if you know, you know. But the whole thing with Kevin Hart's show being canceled and him, just mentioning the ancient Egyptians being black or what have you, this is something that we've seen before, and everybody knows we've been dealing with this whole so-called controversy, which is not, because as I stated on Instagram, like, if you know, you know. Anybody can look at these photos and see that the ancient Egyptians were black. It's just that simple. You can see the civilization was black, and it didn't become white or Arab until conquest. So we don't get, Arabs, or we don't get white people in ancient Egypt, until conquest. So we know about the Persian-Egyptian War. The Persians came in and conquered Egypt in the 6th century BCE. And then in the 4th century BCE, the Greeks came in and conquered them. And this is how they got there. The Arabs came in and took over from Rome. After Rome, took it over during the Greco-Roman Wars. And I showed you guys all this, me being in the, Cairo Museum, and you can see the Greco-Roman era, which the whole era that happened in Egypt is nothing like what we see in ancient Greece or in ancient Rome. Everything is Egyptian style. They dressed like the Egyptians. They made stelas, and they did everything the Egyptian way. So, anybody who does the research, this is not hard to understand that the ancient Egyptians were black. Egypt is in Africa, enough said. So we have this whole agenda, as I talked about before, the whole sub-Saharan African agenda to basically try to steal North Africa and the history of North Africa from the Africans, and just say, sub-Saharan, to imply that sub-Saharan Africa is black, dark-skinned people, and Northern Africa is white. So they're basically trying to give us the middle of Africa. They want to say that the middle of Africa is black, and, South Africa, you have, white people there, the British. And then Northern Africa, we know, from Morocco all the way over, you see the lighter skin, and they don't even look white. They're a mixture. A lot of them don't even know what they are. And you had the Romans come in at the conquest, and they mixed in with the Arabs or the Persians or what have you that was up there, and some of the Africans that was remaining. And you have what you have. But the civilizations in North Africa was black, dark-skinned people. Even if you go back, you look at some of these pictures. If you go back to the photos from the 1800s or the early 1900s of Egypt, you can see, the guys have real dark skin. So it's clear that these people were, black people. So it's just something that this is a mainstream media, disinformation campaign to basically make it seem as if it's wrong or bad to say that the ancient Egyptians was black, because that's what people gonna get out of it who don't understand, you know, real history. So if you do, then I mean, clear as day, you can look at the photos and see that this is an African civilization. And when conquest happened, you had the Egyptians flee into lower Africa, and many of those traditions stuck around and still exist to this day, where we can see, you can clearly see from the photos that these people and no other people on the planet, especially Europeans or Arabs, we can find looking similar to the ancient Egyptians. It's just that simple. So the pictures is what hurt a lot of people. A lot of people have been asking me to do this video, something, more quick and to the point, of just explaining and showing how ancient Egypt was black. And it's something that's not hard to do. I know a lot of people who don't understand the history have a problem with making this point, but you can just Google it. You can Google it. You can look at the pictures. Even Herodotus attests to the ancient Egyptians being black. Theodorus Siculus, a lot of the Greek philosophers and Roman philosophers and historians or what have you will tell you that there was black when you read those books. You're not going to see it mainstream. They're not going to come out and explain this and say that these people were black, because they've been trying to hide it for a long time, and they've been stealing the accomplishments of these of the ancient Egyptians and Africans for years. So the thing is, one, we got to just go and look at history. And I always talk about this and getting people to understand conquest and what took place. Because when you go and look at conquest and all the wars that took place that's well documented, it's clear who these people were. Because you would have to say, who were, if the ancient Egyptian civilization was white, then who were these white people that were conquered by the Persians? It don't fit. It doesn't make sense. We don't hear nothing about this white civilization living in Egypt that existed that was conquered by the Persians. And, we know Egypt being, with the Arabs right now. Why would the Arabs have a problem with, him saying this, with Kevin Hart saying that the ancient Egyptians was black? And you also have to look at, again, history and look at the wars. I talked about the whole Roman-Arab war, lasted almost 700 years, where you had it in the status quo antebellum, which basically means both sides agreed to go their separate ways and do what they did before war happened. But when you understand what happened closer, there was an agreement between the Romans and the Arabs. And one of those things were for the Arabs to take control of Egypt. Because one, if you understand how hot it is in Egypt, if you've been there before, which I have multiple times, you know how hot it is there. And you know that the number one killer of white folks is melanoma. And they cannot sustain life in Egypt for a long time. That's one thing. The other thing is they also didn't want it to fall back into the hands of African people, of black people, for whatever reason. But the Arabs took over. It's part of the deal, you might as well say. And again, if this was an Arab civilization, they would not be digging up the bodies of their ancestors and putting it on display. You wouldn't dig up the bodies of your relatives and put their bodies on display if that was your relatives. If that was your family, you wouldn't do that. Also, if this was their civilization, then they wouldn't know where things were. They wouldn't have these discoveries every few years of them finding stuff. They got to dig stuff up, and there's always these ancient Egyptian discoveries and them finding things. They wouldn't know where shit was at because that's their people. It's not the case. So the thing is, one, they wanted to keep it out of the hands of African people and keep us from going back there and discovering, our history and what happened and what we accomplished. Again, another thing is, you can remember, if we do the history, that we can find ancient Egyptian or Egyptian artifacts or pre-dynastic artifacts, you might as well say, in Ethiopia, in Kenya. So we find this stuff that predates the dynasties. That's the same stuff, the same traditions and customs we find in Egypt, we find before the dynastic period in Kenya, in Ethiopia, which shows you that they followed the Nile up to Egypt and established those civilizations. So there's a lot we can point to. We can point to the pyramids in Nubia. We can point to the culture and customs in Nubia, and we know damn well that Nubia was not Arab or white. So we can't go to any European civilization and find the same, accomplishments, the same culture and customs as we find in Egypt. We can't find no people that mimic or follow, or, we can find the same type of culture and customs with us, European civilization or Arab civilization. So it's just something that a lot of people have been talking about. And I've been reading a lot of ignorant comments. A lot of people just really lost about this situation. And it's not hard. It's not hard to figure out what's going on and what this whole thing is about just by doing a little bit of research and looking at history and seeing what took place. You got to look at conquest. You got to look at the fact that these people conquered these lands, not just in Egypt, but throughout Europe and other parts of Africa that they conquered. This is conquest. It's documented that these people went out and conquered the lands of African people, of dark-skinned people. And this is what we see in the Bible when it's talking about the Hebrews going out and conquering these lands. And then you go and you do your research and you realize, hey, wait a minute. All these lands, the Jebusites, the Hivites, the Perizzites, the Girgashites, the Canaanites, all these people trace back to Ham, and Ham is supposed to be the progenitor of black people. So it's basically telling you in the Bible that they went out and conquered African lands. Then we look in real history, and what do we find? We find the Greeks and the Romans conquering African people, black people. This is what took place. So they did this, and then they put in their Bible that God ordained them, or God gave them the power, or told them that it's okay to go out and conquer these people and take their shit. Because that's what happened. And that's what it is, to get people to accept these things. Because then, they can read and say, well, these people were not Christians and they obviously was doing something wrong, that God passed judgment on them and sent the Greeks or sent the Romans or what have you to go and conquer these people. And that's not even what really happened, because they used the Arabs to do so. So if you go back and you look at the sub-Saharan slave trade, look at the Arab slave trade, lasted over 1,000 years, where they were enslaving African people. Spain belonged to black people. The Moors had Spain. The Arabs came in and took it over and assumed the role of the Moors. Meanwhile, you had the Crusades happen. You had the Knights Templar go out and hunt down the remaining Moors and kill them. They almost wiped them out completely. And then the ones who took deals and remained behind, they took deals and they helped basically bring Spain, or bring Europe, out of the Dark Ages. They helped to civilize white people, the white Europeans. And, they took a deal. This is why I don't like the Moors that much, and they can claim what they want. But this is what happened. While we were being enslaved, they was going out making deals with the Europeans. Just that simple. But it's a lot. You can look into history and find out the truth. And it's a lot you can see that I tell you who the ancient Egyptians were. They know. Come on. These people can't survive that long. When I was over there, almost every white person you saw had an umbrella. They was trying to cover up, not get dark. Even the Chinese was trying to cover up and not get a tan. That sun is a different heat over there. It's hot. And I talked about, the tour guy who told me, this was the black civilization. His ancestors is conquerors or whatever. They basically invaders. And that's what happened. They're invaders. They conquered. They took over the land from African people, dark-skinned people, and that's why they're there. That's why they're digging up the bodies and making money off of it. Plain and simple. It's an African civilization. We know what happened with slavery. We know what happened with our history. Black History Month is done and over with now, but we know that's not our history. There's more to it. Every February, we got to deal with that nonsense. And if you're a person who like black history and you black, something wrong with you. Black history is American history. It's not black history. It's American history and what happened to us in America, what they did to us. Our history is way older than theirs, than any other group of people on this planet. African history is older, and they don't want to tell it. They don't want to tell the stories. You can look at these little bullshit stories, a woman king or what have you. They're not telling you real stories. You got to go in books to find it. Expensive books. And you're not going to find these stories in universities. You're not going to find this stuff. You're going to hear about it from authors and writers who you never heard about, who not being talked about, who told the truth, black and white. So there's a lot you will have to do, and you will have to want to do this. You will have to want to do what I do and what other people do, to spend the time and spend the years to do this research to find out our true history and what's going on. And to be able to learn it, take the time to learn it, to teach it to your kids. But we're so distracted by so many other things that people don't want to take the time to do this. Because at the end of the day, if people don't see no benefit from it financially or what have you, they don't care. So this is why me and other people make these videos and we put them out to try to show you guys real history and try to get you into right knowledge. You got to want to do this. It's not easy. So, yeah, just for the people who hit me up about it, like I said, I put a post up on Instagram about the whole thing, and everybody know I'm passionate about our history, about ancient Egypt and the truth. And again, it's clearly them just trying to make it and put it in the minds of people that it's wrong to say ancient Egypt was black. We're going to cancel your show. It's going to be a problem. It's wrong for Kyrie to come out and say what he said about the Jews and everything, even though the whole Hebrew thing, I feel about that. But they're bang on as far as them being black. If you're going to believe the story, it only fit one people on the planet. That's us. Doesn't make the story true. It's just that it could only fit us. It's more to it, as you guys know. But you having people now who are sick and tired of black people coming out and claiming everything. That's what's happening with a lot of these white folks. They're tired of us coming out and claiming we did this and we did that. They don't want to hear it no more because it's making them feel guilty, just like everything else. It's making them feel some type of way that we have this history and we can prove it. We're saying we did this and we invented that, and they're getting sick and tired of it because it's making them look even more bad than what they had to go through with the whole slavery situation. So, it's tough for them to know this history and learn that we did so much and so much was taken from us, and we're still here. We're still enduring. We still got to deal with all this bullshit, and it just pisses a lot of people off. But this is something that's real simple and easy for people to understand about the ancient Egyptian empire being black, dark black, and the pictures are out there as I showed you guys. It's not hard to figure this stuff out. And you have to want to know this information. So, yeah, appreciate everybody who reached out on that. Again, make sure you guys follow on my Instagram and following on Merkaba Academy. Like I said, new videos coming. 2 new DVDs coming this week on Flat Earth. And the Flat Earth video is just really getting into so much information. I know a lot of people talking about a couple of videos floating around about the ocean being outer space. And I'm going to break that down, what that really is about, and just understanding what that is. And I'm going to show you what that really is, because there are a few really correct flat earth maps. And it's just one that explains it all, that makes it all make sense. So we're going to get into that and a bunch of other stuff, because there's so much stuff that's been happening lately. They're planning for something, which, we'll get into it. And also 2023 video, we'll get into it and what's happening this year, what's coming up. If you've seen 2022 and 2021 video, I was bang on about a lot of stuff in those videos, and it happened. So, here we are. And this is an important year. A lot of stuff coming. So we got to really get into this stuff. But so, stay tuned for those DVDs, those videos, and they will be on Merkaba Academy. And I want to appreciate everybody that's been supporting and everybody who took advantage of the sale and supported, because, it's, I really needed the support, and I appreciate it. It's a lot of stuff going on in my life, and I appreciate everybody that buys and support at this time. It was really much appreciated. But yeah, I ain't going nowhere. I'm beating this thing. And one of the reasons why I haven't put out videos, because as long and as much as I just talked, I couldn't do it before. I'm talking like, if I talk for 30 seconds this way, the way I'm talking, I'm just out of breath. I'm sweating, and I couldn't do it. So it's just one of the things that's showing me that I'm getting better, because I could not talk this long without being fatigued and out of breath because of my heart situation. But doing much better now. And yeah, I'll be back to 100%, pretty soon. But I want to thank you guys for the support and all the well wishes and everything. And I really appreciate it. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you next video.